he said idly. "I don't remember seeing it in your office or home." Brundage smiled sympathetically. "I imagine it would seem new to you. I acquired it last year." "Handsome piece," Hawke said admiringly. "Must have cost the earth." Brundage hesitated, as he'd been compelled to do after nearly everything Hawkes had said so far this evening. "Playing deep again," Hawke suggested into the silence with a sympathetic smile, on a bit of a hush to imply he was jesting. He wasn't. It had been a secret, from everyone except Hawkes, from whom almost nothing was a secret, that the upright Brundage recklessly wagered staggering amounts, amassing staggering unpaid debts. Debt which had magically disappeared before the war was over. Another secret Hawkes had learned. Brundage's smile was small and did not reach his eyes. "I've been fortunate in my investments, thanks to good advice from my accounting firm." "Well, you always did know how to increase your fortunes," Hawkes agreed warmly, which caused another almost infinitesimal silence. Hawkes had so far spent the evening making casual statements that could be interpreted any number of ways, all of them calculated to unsettle Brundage. Hawkes was nearly destitute. He'd been obliged to surrender the entirety of his own hard-won fortune to French authorities before he went to prison. It was either that or face execution by firing squad. After all, justice was really another word for commerce, something every man at the mercy of it eventually learns. Brundage himself had skillfully negotiated these terms. It was, in fact, the generally held view that Hawkes owed Brundage his life. Alas, Hawkes was unable to buy his way out of prison altogether, and the French rebuffed formal attempts to ransom him. It seemed it wasn't every day they caught a near-legendary English spymaster. They wanted to keep him for a few years, perhaps beat him now and again for his temerity. Verdun, the prison depot where he was at first taken, had been just barely tolerable, verging on civilized. Beach, where he'd been taken after an escape attempt, was a violent, soul-annihilating fortress. Brundage had proposed to pay him 3/4 of the fortune he'd lost if he found his fiancée. So he also suspected the immense sum Brundage was offering to pay him to find his fiancée was intended to forever put paid to certain things, such as suspicion, curiosity, initiative, memory. Reflected in that ridiculous mirror in flattering firelight, the two of them looked much the way they had before Hawkes's arrest, the 5th Earl of Brundage and Mr. Christian Hawkes. Such a dashing pair, both so handsome, so brilliant, so competent. But Hawkes, the son of a merchant, had begun his career in the army, blacking the boots of men much like Brundage. He'd swiftly soared to the rank of lieutenant, whereupon he was recruited by the Alien Office in England and charged with tracking down and arresting poisonous little cadres of would-be revolutionaries and recruiting agents and informers, in the process honing some of the filthier tools of his trade: deceit and subterfuge and pantomime, bribery and brutality and blackmail, as well as the more prosaic ones, like managing vast budgets and unpredictable humans. Such were his gifts and triumphs that during the war the Home Secretary sent him to Switzerland and to Spain, under the guise of serving as chargé d'affaires for the Earl of Brundage, who'd been appointed ambassador to Spain. In actuality, to do what he'd already done in England, establish and oversee a vast mesh of intelligence sources, agents, informers, provocateurs, in support of efforts to quash Bonaparte. And if initially Brundage occasionally failed to disguise that he viewed Hawkes's work as distasteful, if necessary, and considered him little more than a peasant shellacked in exquisite manners, it was of no consequence to Hawkes. And if Hawkes's patience once or twice frayed to such transparency that Brundage glimpsed how Hawkes saw him, pompous, scarcely adequate at his job, someone to be tolerated rather than revered, they were both, by nature, diplomats. Their interactions were garnished with civility and humour. Brundage was secure in his supremacy, afforded by his ancient title, position, and fine looks. Until the evening the Earl first entered a ballroom alongside Hawkes, and feminine eyes lit on both. But it was to Hawkes they returned.